welcome to BroTalk. It's January 2024, and I'm pleased the first BroTalk for this calendar year is a very good friend of mine and professional life coach, Nick Thiel. Welcome, Nick. How you doing?
Thanks, Gary. I am doing good. Thank you. It's always nice to hear that introduction. Professional life coach. Good reminder.
You are professional most of the time. Some of your views, which I'm sure will be heard later, can be controversial, but that's why
Absolutely. That's why we roll. Yeah.
So Nick, give us a brief overview how, in terms of what you do, what 2023 was like for you. Also let the listeners know where you're living in England and what your plans are for 2024. If you could do all that in a minute, it'd be great.
Yeah. That'll be no problemo. So where do I start? What do I do? Part of what I do, as you said, is professional life coach. Mainly I'm a relationship coach these days. Do a little bit of life coaching, but I focus on relationship coaching. I'd almost describe that, yes, I do tend to be professional as best I can be, but it's also not the only thing I do, because I also work full time in IT in the corporate world at the moment as well. So juggle between the two. I guess the corporate life takes up a lot more of my time than the coaching. Coaching is my passion. That's the bit I love to do, particularly working with couples. But the corporate side also pays the bills, which is essential. 2023, first of all, I'm in Surrey, up near Epsom Downs Racecourse. Anyone knows where that is, where the Derby is.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason anyone will probably know that area. But so that's where we live at the moment. We were down on the South Coast until 2023. That was all part of 2023. It was a little bit of a lifestyle shift, moving up from the South Coast back to Surrey, which is where we used to live. We're here for a couple of years is the current plan, and hopefully then going back to the South Coast. So 2023 was a bit of a shift. It was also the first full year back in corporate life when I'd had 3 or 4 years out of corporate life. That was also a big shift for me as well. In some respects, brilliant. You've got that guaranteed income coming in, and in other respects, not so good when you're back doing something that really isn't your passion, but you're good at it and it pays the bills. So you're balancing up those two sides of life. Right. Wasn't quite a minute, but we didn't do too badly.
No, you did very well.
Yes. I spoke fast. I don't know what. And 2024 is an interesting time. I'm actually working with my own coach at the moment, which is the first time I've properly done that. I have had coaching in the past, but right now I'm on a really focused program with my own coach. I'm focusing on relationship, which is great as a relationship coach, but being coached in that area, absolutely love it. Not going to lie. And focusing on actually achieving my goals for the year. So this is the year of focus. This is the year of me working on me, which is a great thing. So I'm excited for 2024 at the moment.
Sounds very exciting indeed. And Nick, what led you to that decision with regards to you being coached yourself and working on yourself, relationships? Was it a gradual process? Was it a light bulb moment?
Well, no. I guess this is the place, this bro talk. So we're just going to lay it all out there and be honest with each other, aren't we? So that was a journey, bro, I've always been open to the idea, and I love the idea of being coached, but there's the financial implication of it as well. And there was one particular coach I always said I wanted to work with when I could afford it. That's that usual thing. When I've got the money, I'll do it. And funny enough, you probably need the coaching to get the money to do it. But it's what we do. And then my wife and I were actually having some relationship counseling together. And then I identified that actually what I wanted to do was some work on myself, one-on-one with a man coach, as I would like to call him. Mm-hmm. And so we'd gone down that path, and it was a case of, right, invest the money now, because actually you need to get that done. Stop waiting until you can afford it, because whatever it is that's stopping you affording it is probably part of what you need to work on for yourself. So it was really that decision that I need to make some changes in my world, and I'm ready to take that leap and see where it goes. And he's a kind of combination of a coach and a therapist, and I was interested in where that path might take me, because I've had a little bit of coaching in the past, but I've certainly never had any therapy, counseling or anything down that side before. And I was interested to see whether the coach that always says he doesn't need any sort of counseling might actually benefit from a therapy related bit of work as well.
And how are you finding it so far?
I'm absolutely loving it. It's challenging me. It's opening up stuff that I hadn't necessarily thought about. It's tough because he's straight talking. He's straight to the point. He doesn't allow you to get away with much, which I love. I love that approach. I'm not about the softly approach. Your mates can be that. Your wife can be that. But actually what you need is a really hard hitting person that's going to call it out. and he's walked the walk in a lot of areas I'm trying to walk the walk in. So it's just, it's a wonderful process. It's weekly. It's holding me accountable to everything, and it's proving it massively helpful in my own journey.
Great. And bro, are you discovering things about yourself that either you're learning for the first time or that were hidden you thought were gone and they're coming back to the surface?
I'm having realizations. I'll give you an example, and I'm just going to be open and honest. One of my weaknesses is I'm very opinionated. You know me well enough, and I can be quite judgmental. And I always, when I'm being judgmental, I always think it's coming from a place of my coaching mentality, which is really to help people become better. And so often my judgmentalism appears to be because I don't like seeing people wallowing in a situation. I like to see people getting out of that situation. So I do get accused of being very judgmental. And I've never explored what the judgmentalism might be about. And so we've been having some real insights into some areas around that. And ironically, some of it actually comes back to the pain I carry from not being around my kids very much while they were growing up due to my own divorce and the circumstances, which your listeners won't know, around my kids ending up 200 miles away. And so a lot of pain that I've carried throughout that then is coming out in some of my judgmental behavior towards others. But that kind of thing is being really insightful, and exploring how a man should show up in a relationship. And now I know a lot of the theory, I've read a lot of the same books, but actually talking about it and living it is another story altogether. And the way that you can influence a relationship in that capacity has been really eye-opening for me.
Appreciate your honesty and openness as always, bro. You decide how much you want to share. With regards to you and your marriage, what would you say was a shortcoming, or is a shortcoming of yours, which is probably prompted you to work on yourself also?
My biggest shortcoming, I would say the two biggest shortcomings of me in my marriage is, number one, that judgmental side of me, that opinionated side of me. A lot of times, regardless of whether your opinion is asked for, maybe you're gonna hear about my opinion.
Yeah.
And that certainly doesn't help. And the other part of me that really hasn't helped over the years is the part of me, I'm a big dreamer. I've got a lot of vision in terms of where life could be and what I could do. I haven't walked the walk. I certainly haven't walked it anywhere near to the level I should have walked it. So there's a lot of talk and not enough walk. And that's cost me dearly, because what that's created is a lack of trust. And therefore, when you lose trust, then you lose a lot of connection with your partner.
Yeah, of course. So for you, bro, I mean, you're passionate. You've always inspired many other people to become the best version of themselves, at time with themselves, so they can be their best dad, the best relationship, best husband, and all the other hats that we wear, the best at work. And you totally believe in it. So what do you think's prevented you from actually walking it?
Still working on figuring that final bit out. And it's really funny you asked me that, because my sister asked me something really similar yesterday, bro. We were talking about health, and she was talking to someone else who knew how knowledgeable I am about health. And they were like, oh, your brother must be like the most healthy, amazing, like vibrant person ever. She's like, I'm not sure whether he is. So what's the disconnect? And it's very similar. There's sometimes a disconnect between knowing it all and applying it all.
Yeah.
And I think it varies according to which part of life we're talking about. I think in relationship, what is it in relationship? It's a really good question. Some of it's probably a complacency and a laziness, if we're going to get honest with each other. Mm-hmm. Because you do get lazy in a relationship. Often your best version comes out early days when you're trying hard. And then as the relationship goes on, and perhaps things don't go as you want them to, it's a constant decision. Do I keep pushing in and being that version of me, or do I just ease back and think, why bother? There's some of that. There's the fear of rejection. Mm-hmm. If you're still trying to be someone and it's getting pushed back on you, then sometimes you say, why do I want to put myself in that position? It's easier just to pull back and not risk that. And that rejection might just be you go to give your partner a hug and she's like, I don't want a hug right now. And you can take it personally. You think, well, I'm not going to risk doing that again. So there's that. But then in the other parts of life and in As you say, I do inspire other people, and I do explain to other people how to achieve whatever they want to achieve. It's part of being a life coach. I think it's a fear of failure. I've always carried a fear of, what if this doesn't work? What's next? And I uncovered it a few years ago at an event, is that limiting belief of, is there a finite amount of things I could do to have the life I want? And I don't want a corporate life. I don't want to think that I'm 10 to 15 more years working corporate. That's not who I am. I've never been that person. So I always have to think that there must be other options out there. And it's like that entrepreneurial side of me, because I hate corporate life in that respect. I hate being controlled and told what I have to do. But that is fine, but I'm not balancing it with the entrepreneurial spirit of just get on and do it and don't care what happens, because you're just going to keep going. So it's trying to find that balance. And I don't think I've had that balance. And sometimes I've got these great ideas, and while they're great ideas, they fill you with hope. But when you actually then carry them out and execute them, if they don't work, you then have to face up to the fact that idea is not going to float. So you're going to have to find another one. I think sometimes it's easier to live with hope than it is to live with the reality of that idea didn't work. If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. You explained it really well. And I believe a lot of us men can relate to what you've just shared. And it's the potential is often safer. I could have done this. I could have become that, than actually going for it.
Yeah.
And thinking about your situation, because naturally I know your family and your wife, and you've got all the support around you and people believe in you. So does it come down to self-belief? Do I believe in
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I think a lot of people around me might be losing their belief in me. So they come to the table with belief. But I sometimes wonder how many people close to me still believe in me because I haven't done it. So I then have to carry all the belief for myself. I think my kids probably still think I can rock the world. With bless them. When I was talking to my sister just before Christmas, when I engaged with the coach, she actually reminded me, it was funny how she said it, but when I was younger, I had a nickname of Super Nicky Thiel.
Okay.
It was like, yes. And she said, but you're Super Nicky Thiel. What do you mean you don't think you can do whatever you want? I don't get it. And it was reminding me that there was this belief in me that I didn't have in myself. Whereas probably if I spoke to my wife, that she knows I'm capable, and her frustration is you could do it, so I don't get why you're not doing it.
Yeah.
But then there's almost a lack of belief that you ever will do it because you haven't done it. So I know you can, but you don't appear to be doing it. Therefore, I'm not sure you ever will do it.
And I can see how that would definitely affect any relationship.
Yeah. It does. And I think it almost creates a state of shame in myself. I don't want to talk to people about what I think I'm going to do anymore because I'm fed up with reminding me that you said that last year. Why haven't you done it? So then you almost retreat into yourself, which isn't a bad thing at times. I'm keeping my goals a lot more to myself this year than I might normally have.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to let the year play out, and I'm going to let my results speak for themselves.
Bro, your relationship coach challenges all the time that relationships encounter as well as your own. What would you say is the number one need from a guy, from his wife, from his partner?
I'm going to say the word respect.
Yeah.
And I say it because that's for me, and I know how many other men that applies to as well. So yeah, I think to be respected, to think that your partner, and we've got to be really careful how we word these things sometimes. Respect is easy. That's just, we should have respect. But there's something around, and I use the word admiration. I don't think that's the right word, but I describe it when I'm talking to my wife, we describe it as wanting to think that your wife is almost bragging on you about when she's talking about her husband. He's my husband. Yeah. Which so often we know those conversations aren't going on. The conversations are almost the other way a lot of the time. People moaning about their other half, their better half, their worst half, however they describe them. But when you hear about someone bigging up their partner and talking them up and saying how amazing they are. I was having a conversation with a woman at work the other day, and she was just bigging up her husband. And I was like, wow, that's what you want, because he's not in the room. He wouldn't know what she was saying.
Yeah.
But that's what she's saying, because that must be what she's actually feeling.
Yeah, must be carry on.
No, I think that, but that's all part of respect. I respect him and I admire him in terms of what he does. Doesn't mean he's perfect, because we all miss the mark in so many ways, but it's that ability to look at them in that way.
Yes, 100% agree with you that it is respect. And thinking if you attended a social occasion where you don't know the people, but they know your wife, and they say, "Oh, we've heard so much about you," and it's good things, not, "Oh, you're the husband." Exactly. It's a derogatory way. And I also say in couple relationships whereby for men, the number one need is not to love. Naturally, we want to be loved. We're a human being, but it is to be respected. And I feel that if our wife or partner that's started to lose respect, that affects us in a huge way, because we want that to say, yes, this is my man, or they're doing great things, or I look up to him in that way, not on an unequal level, but in terms of, I want to be, I'm great, I'm proud of what he's doing.
It's exactly that. I think we would always put respect above love if we had to pick what we wanted from a relationship as men.
You're in a playground, don't you, or outside? Don't you dare disrespect me. Oh, he disrespected you. And then that's just cause World War III.
Yeah. And this is a thing. And actually, when you talk now to the young men of our world, and I've got nephews who are all sort of late teens, early 20s. I've got a son in that age range. When we talk to any of them, or we read about the horrible knife crimes and stuff that are going on, comes down to respect. You looked at me in the wrong way. That's disrespecting. In their eyes, you've disrespected me because you've looked at me in the wrong way. You've spoken to me in the wrong way. You laughed at something I did that was not quite right. And you've made me feel small. You've made me feel stupid. It's all respect. And apparently that justifies the knife crimes of today. And it's nothing more than that one word, respect.
And for you, bro, stay with respect, but change in rooms. In the corporate world, how does that show itself, respect or disrespect?
In the corporate world, I think respect shows itself in the way you communicate with people, and also the way that other people communicate with you. I think you sense whether people respect you or not based on how they talk to you. And it's, again, a similar thing. So when I went back to my current job, and I'd been there, it was where I left 3 years previous. I went into meetings and people said, "We're so glad you're back," or "We've heard amazing things about you." It's similar to you saying you go to a social situation where only your wife knows people and like, "Oh, we've heard great things about you."
Yeah.
Getting that same, it's the same, it plays out in the same way. You're either, in the corporate world, you're either talking well about someone or you're talking badly about someone when you're talking about someone. And that's how it is. I know there are people that I respect massively in my job. And when I'm talking to other people, it's that way you talk about that person, or you're talking to them, you'll have a great meeting with them, they're on it, etc. They treat you well. The respect is all about the manners that you bring to a meeting as well.
Yes.
It doesn't matter how good you are at your job, you better turn up and respect other people in the same way. And I see that a lot. I work in an IT environment where some people are brilliant at what they do, but their ability to relate to people is not quite so brilliant. And it comes across disrespectful sometimes.
As you're talking, bro, I'm thinking about us men out there who don't feel respected at work. They don't feel respected at home. They're respected by their children. What does a man do with that? Because I'm sure men out there can relate to where at work they're not getting the respect. That's in transferring it at home with their children. And it's what you said earlier about being in the corporate world, because we need to pay the bills to provide for the family, but you have your passions out there. And it's, going back to my question, what do you do with that?
What do you do with that? It's a good question. Well, the answer that came to my mind, and we can debate whether this is fair or not, because we'll often have that debate, is it starts with the mirror. I know you obviously you love the phrase "man in the mirror," and I think it starts with the mirror. If you're not getting respect in any aspect of your life, I think it's time to figure out why. Is it because I'm not earning respect? Do we have to earn respect? Or do we expect to be respected? So I can understand why I might be disrespected in some areas of my life, and I take responsibility for that. And I can't demand to be respected. So I know I'm totally respected as a dad because of how I've been as a dad.
Yeah.
If I didn't show up as a dad, people can't respect me as a dad.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone disrespects me as a dad now, I'd have to say that it's on them. It's not on me.
Yeah.
But that's because I know who I am. So as I talk there, maybe it's a combination of, number one, are you doing what you need to do to be respected? You're not respected in your house by your partner, by your kids. Why? And then how attuned are you to your own identity that you also know I should be respected because of who I am. Therefore, if someone doesn't respect me, it's something with them. It's not me. That's the other side of it. But I feel that if it was every part of your life, you'd have to start yourself.
Yeah.
Because not everyone's got it wrong. But if it was one or two people, you'd start questioning maybe it's something with them.
Coming from a different angle. Let's say the man is showing up. Okay, he's showing up at work, and he, for whatever reason, is still not getting respect at work in terms of, you say, communication, the way his boss or bosses speak to him. And at home, and I'm sure you may get this as well, on many occasions, men are seeking some appreciation, and they feel that what they do in terms of being, let's say, the main provider, not in all cases, and that's definitely changed, but in a lot of cases, the man is still the main provider, and feeling taken for granted, not appreciated, and just when you get home, deal with this now, deal with that, and not getting a thank you. So that could be transferred as, I'm not being respected, yet I am doing what I should be doing as a husband, as a father, as a worker.
Yeah. There's two, you've got work and you've got home there, and we probably would need to break them into two different conversations, because I think how you might handle your relationship at home might be different from how you handle your relationship at work.
Sure.
But let's start with home. I think there's a few things there, because we could be the provider, but we may not be doing what needs to be done for our partner to draw them out. But yes, we should expect a thank you because we're doing things. I get that. But in the same way that we're sat here saying men need respect, we could start talking about what women need, and are we giving them what they need? Because they don't just need to be provided for. And obviously some women would say they don't need to be provided for at all.
Yeah.
But what we need to do is also be understanding, okay, I'm working hard, I'm providing, but am I giving her what she needs? And if I'm not, then is that causing her to, for some reason, not want to appreciate me for the things I am doing? Because sometimes we can feel like we're giving it everything, but we're missing the mark on the one or two things that she really needs from us.
With that point you just made, bro, would you say it's harder being a man today compared to generations previously? Because it was back then, your man's role, you go out, you provide, you're meeting that need. The woman's got financial security. She knows food's coming in and she looks after the home. You go out to the typical, you outdoors, do what you got to do. I look after your home and I'll make it as comfortable for everyone in the family.
Yep.
Whereas now you're saying provided financial security, which I would still argue is still a lot of people's main need, that we're financially secure, is not enough. And yes, we know there's more than than just putting money on the table. But you take away the money factor, then all the other needs almost become relegated, and it's the finances. How are we going to pay for this? How are we going to pay for that? And the guy is just like, where do I go? Yeah. Is it hard to be a man today?
That's a great question, isn't it? This could be a 3-hour debate. Yeah. Is it harder being a man today? Probably is. It probably is. Well, no, it 100% is. And I say that because we've gone through this journey of, like you said, years ago, it was like, yeah, put the food on the table, pay the bills, you're doing your job as a man. And then we've moved through these cycles where women have become far more independent and able to replace us in that space. And there are plenty of relationships where the woman is making more than the man.
Yeah.
And we're talking about heterosexual relationships here. But you've got that going on. And so the man might lose his identity in terms of, what am I bringing to the table now? Because you don't need me because you're earning more than me. But you could tell me where to go tomorrow and not miss me in the same way as you might have done all those years ago.
Sure.
It's a reality. We're also being told, we've gone through a whole journey of being told as men how we're supposed to be. And so it used to be just be the provider, and it's be the provider, but can you have some emotions and can you talk more about stuff? And Can you bring all of that? And can you understand us more, please? Men, I'm talking as a woman, as all of those things have now come in. And I think men have just completely lost their way as to how they're supposed to show up, which makes it even harder because now, is it enough just to earn, or do we have to be a certain way, et cetera, et cetera? How do we show up, and how do we handle this massive shift in power? Because we're no longer the main providers in a lot of cases. And what does that mean for a relationship going forward? Yeah, I think it is harder. But I'm sure if we sat here talking to women, they would say it's harder being a woman in today's society as well.
Yes, it's definitely not one-sided at all. But staying with men and pressure, yeah, women have pressure as well, so different type of pressure, but today we're focused on men. And the stats don't lie in regards to suicide. We're fully aware of it around the 40s to 50s where life is really challenging. Children are growing up, parents are aging, you've got the pressures of finances probably at its peak.
Totally.
And where do we go with this? And often we struggle to even just ask for help. So if we've got this pressure from our partner and then we say to them, I'm really struggling, is that going to invite compassion? Or is that going to invite fear? Okay, the person I'm looking to for security is struggling.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll put an arm around his shoulder, but now my confidence in him has reduced.
Yes. And that's a really good point, bro. And first of all, I'll talk to you about my personal experience in there. Because when I was struggling, I didn't bring that to my wife that I was struggling as much as I was. So this is the period where I left corporate life and I'm trying to make it as a coach and trying to replace what was a six-figure income by coaching. And you'll know that's not an easy route.
Yeah.
And, you know, the world of social media tells you it's doable in a couple of months. And the reality, if you do it at all, you've done well. And I was struggling, but I've never been the guy that brings that struggle necessarily to a lot of other people. Now, what it turned out was, as my wife said to me, she felt disconnected because I might have been struggling on the inside, but on the outside, I'm trying to be Mr. Positive. And she just said, you're not authentic. I don't even know who you are anymore. She said, when you're vulnerable with me and tell me you're worried, you're scared, you're this, you're struggling, I feel totally connected to you, which was interesting. Because which goes against what you just said. But then that's one person, that's her experience. But also that went against who I was because I couldn't really be Mr. Vulnerable all the time because I didn't want to say all the time, I'm scared. I don't want to be that person. I believe in, no, you're going to have to battle your way out of this. But there is that argument and we hear it in so many men. They don't want to be that open with their partners and say how scared they are, how struggling they are, because they do feel the weight of responsibility, exactly what you said. They do feel it's on their shoulders to provide. And the minute they open up and say, I'm struggling right now, are they opening something that they can't close? Because like you said, again, we're back to that trust.
Yeah.
They still trust me to get us out of this hole. And again, it's probably, I don't think there's a wrong or right necessarily answer in there because it's going to depend on who you both are, whether she's going to show you compassion, come alongside you and be your biggest cheerleader to help put you back up there. Or is she going to then go into such an unsafe space of worrying that if you're struggling, then what the heck are we going to do as a couple that actually could draw you down even further? Which is the fear, which I think is why a lot of men won't even air those. And
yeah,
hear guys like they're running up debt or they can't afford things, or you hear about some men that lose their jobs and they can't even tell their partner that they've lost their job and they pretend to go to work every day.
Death of a salesman. Yeah.
You're thinking, wow, that's a pressure that I don't know how a man copes with that.
For our younger viewers, listeners, they may not remember this, but going back to Superman, I think it was Superman 2, the original Superman, and he forsook his role as Superman because he was totally in love with Lois Lane. And then remember the fight in the bar, and the guy just completely done him over. And he realised in that moment two things. One, he couldn't protect his wife. his missus. And so what type of man was he? She probably still respects him, but he was no longer Superman who she fell in love with.
Yes.
And he needed his purpose. So he went back. But in that moment, despite being vulnerable, he was like, I can't protect you. And I knew she didn't look at him the same way. She still loved him, but there was that vulnerability. This armor who I fell in love with no longer has this armor, the cape.
Exactly that. He gave up his superpower for love. But a man, and you just used the words purpose, and we haven't touched on purpose, but a man not living his life of purpose is a man that's sat there with kryptonite. If we kissed in the Superman, is sat there with kryptonite in front of him. He's weakened. And it's not enough just to say, I'm just going to be like what the lover that she needs me to be. He has to be on purpose. He has to be knowing his purpose and living it.
Thank you for listening to BroTalk. Once again, my name is Gary Napier. If you'd like further information or any of these areas touched you and would like further support, then please do not hesitate to reach out to me on the various platforms. That can either be through Instagram, Facebook, or the gapcounselling.com website.